Hello everyone and welcome back to Dragalia Foundry, a fan channel where everything Dragalia Lost can be found. This video is going to contain my review of the latest Summon Showcase. It's another Gala remix this time around, bringing back Gala Leonidas, Gala Reborn Agni, and introducing a brand new permanent pool adventure. We have our first ever playable Agito adventure in the form of Ayaha and Otoha. So this showcase is all about the flame element with two very strong flame adventurers, one of whom is a Gala exclusive and a really good Gala flame dragon as well. Now I want to talk a little bit about the version update that was announced a couple days ago. It's been a while since I posted a video, so I want to try wrap that into this as well because some of what's presented there is relevant to the decision of whether or not to summon. Overall though, if you're just here for the high level takeaway, with there only being about a day left on this showcase, I do think that this is a high value showcase, and you probably should consider summoning on this if you don't already have Gala Leonidas. If you do have him, it's a dicier proposition because he does represent a large amount of value from this showcase. The Reborn Agni unbinds are nice, Ayaha and Otoha look to be very good as well, but there are some limitations that I see potentially being an issue with them in future content, as good as they appear to be. So to me, Leonidas is the standout on this showcase. Ayaha and Otoha will be there in the permanent pool, maybe for a dream summon down the road, or maybe you'll get them randomly, but I wouldn't necessarily count on it. You might end up having to spark them on like a flame focus banner in the future, something like that. I don't think it's going to necessarily be easy to get them. If you look at other strong adventures like Lapis, it's really been a long time since she's been super available to summon for. So we've had a lot of strong flame adventures lately, and importantly, we're getting some new Wind endgame content very soon, and we just had some released fairly recently with Legend Yaldabaoth, so we'll get into all of that in this video, but I do think this is a really good showcase, better than the previous showcase with Dragonyule Ilia, and the results that are out there now for the twins look to be really promising as well. So let's start talking about this. As I said, I want to briefly touch upon the version update before we get into things here. We find out about Kaleidoscape's release date on 12/27. Super excited about that one, but of course doesn't really affect your summoning decision here since that's a mode of itself. But then Primordial Midgardsormr's trial making its debut. Also coming out very soon here, less than a week away on the 24th. And I love the fact that Humanoid Midgardsormr is here, suggesting that there's going to be multiple phases to this fight or multiple forms. That is something I'm very much looking forward to. It's the first in this series of high difficulty quests, and you have to have beaten Chapter 16 for 6 to play it. There's going to be normal difficulty. You have to have beaten that chapter on normal difficulty, and then you have to beat any advanced dragon trial on master. The primal trial will be available in standard, expert, and master difficulties. So right away from the start, there's going to be multiple difficulties to it, and the rewards will include materials for crafting weapons from the new Primal Dragon series. Aha, so yeah, we're getting stronger weapons, presumably stronger than the Agito weapons, or at least a side grade, and hopefully a side grade that isn't as diminished by Curse of Nihility as the Agito weapons are. So it remains to be seen, maybe these will be 6-star weapons, they could go back down to 5-star, it really doesn't matter the rarity, it's more about the stats, the skills, and abilities on them. But I think it's an interesting release here with Primordial Midgardsormr coming out right after Legend Yaldabaoth, because whatever weapons are chosen for this, I'm guessing it's going to be wind element weapons to go with Midgardsormr, just like we had for the High Dragons. But even if we got flame element weapons from this, let's say, to make farming this quest easier over time, even if we got those are the two elements, flame and wind, that are used against Yaldabaoth. So regardless of whatever elemental type of weapon we get from this, and once again, I'm assuming it's probably going to be wind weapons, it should make Yaldabaoth on Legend easier. And it seems clear to me that that was definitely balanced around Primordial Midgardsormr coming out so soon after. So still a hard fight. I've seen some faster and faster clear times over the past week for Legend Yaldabaoth, but this is right around the corner. It's got to be wind element. We're going to be using flame teams, even though it's not element locked, presumably. And I think that was officially announced, actually. But this is a use case for Ayaha and Otoha, for Leonidas, for Reborn Agni, who we're going to be talking about on the banner today. Other than that, some other cool things just to highlight real quick. Skip tickets becoming usable on Advanced Dragon Trials, some of the Agito quests, so not the Legend difficulty, but the other difficulties. That's pretty wild to see. And at least the standard difficulty of Rise of the Sinister Dominion, and we're going to get more skip tickets per day too. And then we're going to have some stamina cost reduction on the Master difficulty, Standard through Master of the Agito, and just Standard of Rise of the Sinister Dominion. More rewards from Advanced Dragon Trials. That's interesting. Maybe that'll just let you get more copies of those dragons and not actually new kinds of rewards. You suggested teams to set shared skills. Okay. And some balance adjustments to Mine, Sandalphon, and the timing of Curse of Nihility. And in the event compendium, also on the 24th, Faith Forsaken Part 1, Part 2, Summertime Saviors, and Twinkling Twilight. ABR available every day. This is one of the most stacked version updates we've had in a while. New stickers coming, New Year's lines coming, support for upcoming adventures is coming, and unresolved issues will be addressed. The past few version updates after the anniversary had been on the more limited side. This is one of the more packed ones, and I didn't have time to make a separate video about it, unfortunately, so I apologize for talking about it here in this showcase review video, but had to give it some airtime just because I think it's really cool what's on the horizon. It feels like we're getting a more sizable update. But anyway, let's hop back into the showcase analysis, and we're really going to spend our time today focused on Ayaha and Otoha. So they are a Flame Staff adventurer, and they are a permanent adventurer, meaning they're going to be available on future summon showcases, but not necessarily at an appearance rate up, not necessarily Worm Sigil eligible. This is still one of the better times to be able to get them outside of a Dream Summon where you could get them guaranteed. The other cool thing, and I think the reason a lot of players might want them, besides their power level, which is evident in some of the clears they've put up so far, is just the fact that they're playable Agito. We had Gala Beast Volk, but we didn't get Human Volk, and so it makes me wonder, are we going to get, all the Agito as adventurers, and their transformed forms, the beast forms, will be available as Gala Dragons? I think that would be super sweet. I know outside of the humanoid Great Worms, the Agito are like another series of characters that players really want to have summonable and playable. So very excited to see this kick off with Ayaha and Otoha. A little sad their English voice lines are not in the game yet, but can't wait for that, looking forward to it. And they also have good Japanese voice lines as well, so no shame in having those, and those are fun too. So, okay, we have Ayaha and Otoha, we have Gala Leonidas, Gala Reborn Agni, but wait, there's more on the showcase. I haven't mentioned this yet in this video, but also there's this off chance of getting some of these other limited time Dragonyule adventures. They're not an appearance rate up, which in Dragalia terms means they're not featured. That's the language that's used for that. But they are on the showcase, and they can be sparked using Worm Sigil, so they are Worm Sigil eligible. I think this is interesting. This is a little bit of a curveball. Dragonyule Xainfried here as a 4-star is a pretty nice pickup, and even without being an appearance rate up, as a 4-star, you're going to get enough 4-stars as you summon that, yeah, maybe you could pick up a Dragonyule Xainfried. I wouldn't say it's guaranteed, as we've had showcases in the past where players really wanted Halloween Loid, summoned a lot and weren't able to get him because he wasn't at an appearance rate up. So I wouldn't necessarily take this for granted, but I do think that's a nice little prize among the adventurers who are summonable here. So that's another added bonus on this showcase. If you don't have Xainfried, you don't have Leonidas, all the better. And then Dragonyule Jean, and that's pretty much it. About to end tomorrow, so by the time I post this, it'll be the day that it ends. Unless you're watching it early after I post it, it'll be one day before, but yeah, we're going to get our next banner preview pretty soon here. It may even be a rerun of a past New Year's banner or something like that, with cursed connections happening right now. Okay, so now let's finally get into Ayaha and Otoha's kit. Love the portrait with their fused state in the background, obviously. They look really good. And notably, even though they wield a staff, they are an attack unit. So just like Gala Xena, they can heal a little bit. There's some healing in their kit that's not necessarily guaranteed, even to a staff character, but they do have a little bit of it. but they much more are a DPS. They have a good damage potential, especially by shapeshifting. That's one of their core mechanics. And yes, they can heal, and they can heal enough for current content. Not necessarily a guarantee that they're going to be able to heal enough for future content. The thing that stood out to me the most is creeping corrosion, or any kind of damage over time. I feel like that could be a little bit of a struggle for them. I have seen them clear Legend Yaldabaoth already, and in the second phase, you don't have as much corrosion to deal with, so maybe it's going to be fine. But against Asura, I'm not 100% sure how things will work out there, so that's one consideration I had with them is the healing enough to replace a traditional healer, or do you run them alongside a traditional healer? Anyway, let's go ahead and read through their skills and abilities here. I think that this time around, let's start with the abilities. Hopefully that'll help the skills make a little bit more sense. So co-ability, dragon damage plus 20%, is a pretty uncommon one. Adds 20% to the modifier applied to damage when in dragon form, benefits your whole team. So I believe that this is, I don't know if this is unique to them. I'm trying to think about all the characters who have released this past year. I think Gala Odric has this as a chain co-ability, and he has critical damage. Gala Uden has a dragon damage boosting co-ability, but it has a special name and some other effects like shapeshift time, I guess. Don't quote me on that, it's been a while. But there's some other ways you can boost dragon damage, but not all that common, I guess. And in the flame element, dragon spam is a very valid strategy. Gala Leonidas has a chain co-ability that we'll just show here that helps get more shapeshifts per quest. When you're comboing, it can help you fill up your dragon gauge, and with his high hit count, that's a pretty reliable way of building the dragon gauge. Gala Mim also is good at ramping up the dragon gauge, and even regular Uden can do that as well. So that's dragoning is a legitimate approach, and Mars being able to recharge a character's skills after the shapeshift is undone means that you can use shared skills which boost your dragon gauge, or maybe you're already playing a character like Mim with skills that boost their dragon gauge. So you can definitely spam dragons in the flame element, so this is already pretty interesting. And then combo equals buff skill time plus 15%. Sure, that's a good chain co-ability, a relatively offensive one paired with the dragon damage. Seems fine to me, and the dragon damage plays well with Ayaha and Otoha's abilities here, since she has a strong dragon form. Her first ability, Union 2, the user begins the quest as Ayaha, but can swap to Otoha and vice versa by using Nabe Nabe Sokunuke. Ayaha and Otoha share all the same stats, but their standard attacks, 4 strikes, dash attack, and second skill differ. So, I believe, if I'm not mistaken here, let's see. Let's try see what we can discern from the artwork. Oh, I get this mixed up more often than I should. But one of them plays in a standard attack similar to a dagger, and the other plays in a standard attack similar to an axe. So that is kind of how their standard attacks differ. They do a little bit less damage, but have a little bit better SP generation than those weapon types do. Okay, we'll carry on. First strike effects. Ayaha deals damage to enemies in a line and reduces their strength by 5% for 20 seconds. This strength reduction will not stack. Otoha deals damage to surrounding enemies. Okay, so Otoha's the one that wields an axe, Ayaha's the one that wields a dagger. Fairly certain after reading the 4 strike effects. And then when shapeshifting, the user will transform into Beast Ayaha and Otoha regardless of what dragon they are equipped with, and activate the following effects when shapeshifted. The user's shapeshift time is extended by 25%. The user's standard attacks lower enemy burn and scorch-turn resistance by 20% for 30 seconds. Both of these resistance reduction effects can be applied simultaneously, but neither of them will stack. So you can't lower the burn or scorch-turn resistance more than 20% doing this, but you can lower both of those afflictions' resistances. And then the user is also granted a Dragon Strike that deals damage to surrounding enemies and inflicts stun and scorch rend. The Dragon Strike is actually pretty legit, so it takes a little bit to charge, but it's essentially like the twins' spinning red and blue beam attack, and it hits across the battlefield, making it quite good at dealing with all of the enemies that Yaldabaoth spawns. Outside of that, if the boss you're fighting is susceptible to stun, that could be a way of applying stun to them, but I think they have some other ways that they can apply stun too, so you may not even want to use this Dragon Strike, their basic attacks, being able to lower enemy resistance and then apply afflictions, and enabling affliction punishers for your team is also quite a good approach. So I think that that's generally their playstyle when you shapeshift, is to use your standard attacks, lower resistance, then use their skill as a dragon, and then keep standard attacking. But we'll read on here. In addition, the user's dragon skill level will match the level of the adventurer's initial skill displayed at the top of their skill list. So we'll take a look at the dragon skill when we get to that. Their second ability is Warabe Asobe 2. Using Nabe Nabe Sokunuke reduces susceptibility to afflictions by 20% for the remainder of the quest. This reduction can stack up to 5 times. Also, using that, or Onigoko, or Kagome Kagome, will grant the user a strength amp with a maximum team amp level of 1. So low max team amp level, but after this amp is granted, the ability will not grant it again for 8 seconds, but a little bit quick on the ability to re-grant the amp and therefore build up toward a team amp. And then finally, Tosembo and Torianse 2 reduces damage taken by 10% when not inflicted with any afflictions. Also grants the user a stack of the playtime effect for every 9 seconds that pass in which the user is not inflicted with any afflictions. During playtime, the user's strength is increased by 5%, and the potency of recovery skills by 10%. This buff can stack up to 3 times. All stacks will be lost upon being inflicted with an affliction. So I love how this is a translation of them as a boss into their mechanics as an adventurer. I just think that's super sweet, because if you've played the Ayaha and Otoha fight, of course, they start ramping up their strength. They start buffing up themselves, and the way to cancel it out is by afflicting them. And so apparently you can get this up to 3 times. You can have 15% of visible strength buffs, 30% recovery potency with this, if you can avoid getting afflicted. And even though at the beginning of a quest, you're very susceptible to afflictions since you don't have a natural affliction resistance built in, every time you use your first skill, you're going to reduce your susceptibility to afflictions by 20% for the rest of the quest. So once you stack that 5 times, you're completely immune to afflictions, barring some kind of special cases like Volk's Plague, I guess. And using either your first or second skill is going to give you that individual strength amp that can quickly become a team amp. So regarding their shared skill, it's the Onigoko variant that is used while Ayaha is active. So we will discuss that as we head to the skills here. So in case those names were not making sense earlier, Nabe Nabe Sokunuke is the first skill, and then Onigoko and Kagome Kagome is the second skill, but you get Onigoko if you're Ayaha, and you get Kagome Kagome if you're Otoha. Okay, so let's read through this first skill. It deals damage to the target and nearby enemies, partially fills the dragon gauge if the attack connects, removes all afflictions from the entire team, and swaps the user from Ayaha to Otoha or vice versa. If this skill is used directly after Onigoko or Kagome Kagome, it will also immediately ready Onigoko and Kagome Kagome for use. Okay, interesting. But whatever one you use, then you use this skill, it's going to ready up the other one because you'll have swapped by using this skill. You'll have swapped from Ayaha to Otoha or vice versa. If this skill is used while shapeshifted, so this is your dragon skill basically, a variant called Hanaichi Monmei will be used instead. Hanaichi Monmei deals damage to the target and nearby enemies, draws them together, inflicts stun, burn, and scorch rend, and restores HP relative to the amount of damage dealt. Hanaichi Monmei also grants the entire team a team strength amp, so you're getting the team strength amp right from that, the purple Hagoromo effect, and increases their max HP. Okay, so this is jam-packed with utility here, so let's read through the bottom portion. So first of all, this has pretty high skill energy cost for a first skill, so you're not exactly going to be swapping with high frequency, and the damage on this isn't super great relative to the skill energy cost, but it does allow you the ability to swap. And of course, when you're in dragon form, it's basically a shapeshifted skill, so it's quite good in dragon form. But you do get dragon energy gauge when you use this. You clear the entire team of afflictions, which is helpful considering Ayaha and Otoha have no innate affliction res themselves, and it's also helpful for afflictions which aren't easy to cleanse, like let's say Primal Midgardsormr causes Stormlash. Right now, that's not something that you can very easily cleanse compared to, let's say, Stun. So this could be a way of cleansing Stormlash, if that's a thing. When shapeshifted, you actually get pretty decent damage. You get the max HP plus 15%. And then as far as what the purple Hagoromo does, you get HP regen, which triggers every 3 seconds with a low potency. It's not a high potency at all. But it also gives your entire team Stunned Punisher, Burning Punisher, and Scorch Rend Punisher. Not the hugest amounts here, but it's a legitimate buff. And the burn isn't special or anything. It does only last 12 seconds, but Scorch Rend lasts 21, which is typical. The stun, if it hits, lasts 7. And then you also get this Team Strength amp, which is really nice in a world of Curse of Nihility, and making regular buffs nullified, basically. I don't know, I don't expect the Primordial Great Worms to use Curse of Nihility, but it wouldn't shock me either if that's the case. Kind of hoping it's not the case, but I could see it happening. So yeah, maybe amps are here for that as well. If nothing else, for Legend content, they're a thing. So let's say Legend Asura coming out. We already have Legend Yaldabaoth, where Ayaha and Otoha have been used in clears as the soul healer, and they're fine there. But yeah, I think it's fine in Sinister Dominion. Going to be great at the lower difficulty levels too, but a little unsure how important this will be when it comes to Primordial Midgardsormr. And then for the HP Dragon, recovers 10% of the damage dealt, recovers up to 10% of targeted units' max HP, and the target is the entire team. So I guess when it says restores HP relative to the amount of damage dealt, it actually restores to the entire team, which is another chance at healing for Ayaha and Otoha here. This is interesting. It doesn't seem like this skill is one that you necessarily spam, but you can use it to fully recharge your second skill, so I think you'd want to save it essentially for that point in time. And then when you're shapeshifted, it's legitimately a great skill to use, increase your damage of your whole team, and give them some opportunities at healing as well. The fact that you get both afflictions in one too, I think one of the things that's lacking in Ayaha and Otoha's kit is Dispel, but you're going to have your afflictions covered, so you probably have the luxury of affording some other characters on your team that bring the Dispel. And also the fact that they can lower Scorch Rend and Burn resistance. If your other characters on your team are like, let's say, Gala Leonidas or Gatov, who can cause Scorch Rend, you don't necessarily have to worry about capping on Scorch Rend against your foe, because you can lower that resistance anyway and then get some successful procs off even late into a battle. So the second skill here, which is shareable, is either Onigoko or Kagome Kagome. If it's used as Ayaha, Onigoko is used, that deals damage to the target and nearby enemies, inflicts stun, restores HP to all teammates, and grants them the blue Hagoromo effect. If you use this as a Toha, Kagome Kagome is used. It deals damage to multiple targets and enemies near those targets, inflicts burn and Scorch Rend. So the first one does stun, this one does burn and Scorch Rend. Restores HP to all teammates and grants them over damage and the red Hagoromo effect. This skill's attack will only affect each target once per use. So as Ayaha, it deals 1 hit of damage. I think this is animation-wise like her summoning a butterfly behind the enemy. So I think you've seen that when we battle her, and you have to lure the butterfly into her and them normally as a boss. But in this case, I think she just summons it behind the foe that you're fighting against, and it just sort of flies toward them. So it does 1400 damage, it can cause stun, and the skill energy is about half of the first skill, so you'll probably be able to get a couple rotations in on your second skill before you have your first skill ready for use. And then what the blue Hagoromo does, it lasts 30 seconds. it stacks up to 3 times. That's actually pretty legit. And by the way, the recovery potency is 60, so it's like half of a normal healer's heal, roughly. And that's kind of a burst heal I'm talking about, not like the regen component of their healing. But then you do get this regen. The potency doesn't seem that good, but the fact that it lasts 30 seconds and then you can stack this up to 3 times, maybe it is a little better than I'm thinking here. And she does have some built-in extra combo time. So my concern was the 60 recovery potency for burst looks kind of low. But perhaps I'm wrong on that, because she was able to clear. I've seen her clear Legend Yaldabaoth. She can auto Mercurial Gauntlet, level 70. She can clear Mercurial Gauntlet level 70 as the sole healer with only a couple other DPS adventurers even. So you could go down a character. I've seen that posted. I've seen Berserk Volk just annihilated, or I should say Legend Volk. I don't even know if it goes to the Berserk phase, but so far, so good for Ayaha and Otoha and all of the endgame wind content. Really, the question mark is what kind of mechanics are we going to have in Primordial Midgardsormr? Are we going to have some extreme healing checks that make this amount of healing not viable? I feel like it's not that likely, and if anything, I feel like it's more likely that we're going to have annoying afflictions to deal with, like the Stormlash, where her affliction cure is actually going to be very valuable. That's my take right now. I could also see Primordial Midgardsormr maybe summoning like a lot of wind orbs or something, let's say, with cooldown or not cooldown, but like hit count timers on them, right? I could just sort of see that fitting in aesthetically, just those spawning all across the arena. And in either of those type of situations, having a high DPS healer would probably help you, especially one with overdamage if it's a hit count situation, and one that has pretty good AoE properties too. So right now, it would seem to me that this is probably the best healer in the flame element, even as a healer that can't heal for as much as some of the other healers out there, and doesn't necessarily have the same reliable max HP boost, I don't think. I think is that actually to the team? Let's see. Oh no, yeah, that max HP boost is to the entire team. So that's actually pretty serious too, because that's one of the things that Lowen could bring that made him so valuable. So if that's the entire team too, this is looking really good for Ayaha and Otoha right now. Anyway, Blue Hagoromo also getting that wind res that you could stack. That seems pretty valuable too, to tank your way through some mean hits. Maybe some Storm Chasers or something. Gosh, is Storm Chaser the purple or the red one? I don't even remember my Midgardsormr attacks. It's been so long since I really played through that battle. I think the Primordial Great Worms are going to feel kind of fresh for that reason. But anyway, that's what Onigoko does. If you're Otoha and you're using Kagome, instead you get lower damage. It's one hit. And now, as I see both of them are one hit, I'm also sort of wondering if I have them reversed, but I'm pretty sure this one, because it causes stun, is the one that looks like a butterfly. But maybe they both look like a butterfly, I'm not sure. But this skill, or this variant of the skill, it recovers for the same amount as far as burst recovery, and same SP cost and everything, but then Red Hagoromo increases your affliction success rate by 50%, which lasts for 30 seconds. This stacks for up to 3 times. You also get your overdamage, which lasts 30 seconds, and its potency is 40% of strength, and it causes burn and scorch rend. So what you're looking at here as far as your total utility, your package here for Ayaha and Otoha, you have resistance to burn and scorch rend down, the ability to apply burn, to apply scorch rend, to stun an enemy, overdamage, max HP buffs, additional punishers against stunned, burning, and scorch rend, regen over time, which can stack, up to a team strength amp, vampirism, this HP drain effect that actually heals the entire team, a special dragon form, extra dragon damage, and buff skill time when you can keep a combo, and eventually complete affliction immunity, barring plague-like mechanics, and damage reduction if you're not afflicted, plus this passive extra strength and extra recovery potency if you're not getting afflicted. All in all, this seems to be an extremely stacked and pushed adventure, and it feels almost right for an Agito adventure. Like, I hope all the Agito adventures are good in a way that feels compelling and feels exciting to play, as these are such important characters in the story. Honestly, I really want to summon for her, even though she's part of the permanent pool, and I might just try to do that, even though I already have Gala Leonidas. I think something to think about too here is I'll spend a few moments just kind of talking about Gala Leonidas. Long story short with him, like, he's great for all current content that requires Flame Element adventurers. Mercurial Gauntlet, Yaldabaoth, Asura, Volk, Midgardsormr's Trial, if you're still working on that. You're going to be good with Leonidas. He's a great adventure to have. Gala Reborn Agni is a great dragon to have, although Mars has a more unique set of applications, but Gala Reborn Agni is still just like a really solid, powerful dragon. But anyway, all this to say, I think one thing to think about if you're on the fence and you already have Leonidas is think about your play style in the game. If you're a player that prefers to solo lots of content, then you almost want to have multiple strong adventures built up across different roles, right? So if you're thinking about Primordial Midgardsormr and you want to have a healer, even if you already have Leonidas, you already have Gatov, maybe you have, let's say, Kimono Elisan or something. Well, Ayaha and Otoha still has value to a player like you because that's your healer that you can throw on your team potentially, right? If you're a player who prefers co-op and farms more of your quests that way, or if you just think that co-op is the more likely way of playing the Primordial Great Worm Trials, well, then all of a sudden, if you already have Gala Leonidas, you could say to yourself, hey, I think I'm good for this. I have a really good Flame Adventure that's put in a lot of work, has been good in every other content. You know, maybe it won't work out perfectly in this case, but I have some other Flame Adventures I could potentially use. For co-op, you really just need to have that one adventure built, and then everything else is sort of backline. And while yes, the dragon damage and buff skill time here could be nice on a backline, potentially, you can probably just as well fill out like a Gala Leonidas co-abilities with random other adventures. So I think that's the thing you have to consider for yourself here is co-op inherently just requires you to build fewer adventures. So if that's something that you're still have a group to do or able to do or actively like to do, like that's your preferred way to play, then there may be less need to have like the latest and greatest healer at the ready. If you're planning on taking on this content solo, who knows? I mean, it's completely new content, so maybe Lowen will be totally fine. Maybe Valentine's Hildegard for her Dispel spam. Maybe Yukata Cassandra because she has all these strength buffs built in and she has her Trials of the Mighty Mana Spiral. There are a lot of different Flame adventures, Flame healers specifically, that could be the healer. Maybe it'll go back to Verica because, I don't know, for whatever reason. Maybe the Dragon's Claws that she has built in is going to be really nice and solo. It's a little bit hard for me to predict what's going to happen with that, but just as you weigh your decision on whether or not to summon, because remember, we're on the verge of New Year's. There's going to be limited adventures for that. Then we're going to have Valentine's. And New Year's is going to be like possibly split banners, right? And we might have split banners throughout January. Maybe we'll have like some cool event that happens with some new permanent pool adventures and they're also split. I think these are just some things to think about as you weigh these decisions. But that is going to do it for today, everyone. I hope you enjoyed this video. Felt like a lot to say, a lot to catch up on, so even though we just went through one Adventures kit, this was a fun one for me. I hope you felt the same way. Thank you as always for watching, take care, and I'll see you next time.